certain kinds of films have to come out of love, or a film can come out of hate of something, or a passionate feeling against something, especially social issue films. But the film came out of really the films that I did on Gertrude Stein and Picasso. And while I was doing the research and while I was doing the film and finding out about it, uh, I kept finding out about, and then eventually began just making a list. Nothing particular in mind, but the number of people who were in Paris, in a very small section of Paris, all at the same time, and the effect that they were having on each other, and how it related to the beginnings, the early days of modern art, and what happened in the 20s, so that the names kept mounting, and they came from everywhere. Modigliani from Italy, Salvador Dali from Spain, and Duchamp. And what it really was, the interaction of people, the interaction of, and crossing the boundaries, so that you had, for example, the great success of the Ballet Russe, but it brought for the first time that Diaghilev, who was the founder and the creator of the Ballet Russe, and a great figure in the arts. Diaghilev brought in for the first time to the ballet modern set designers, modern painters.
She was very concerned that all the arts be represented. She very much wanted ballet to be represented. She knew some of my work. I've written about the Ballet Russe. I was impressed with her right away. I felt she was very sympathetic, sympathique, and I felt she was very open to a lot of ideas, that she was also very cultured, that she, in this older sense of someone who is not an academic, but is very, very cultured, knowledgeable about all the arts. You don't have to say you do know who Stravinsky was. I mean, this is a woman who knew music, who knew the visual arts, who knew enough about dance to know that she didn't know something, and was someone who was very sophisticated. And of course, she spoke French. It was clear she had had a long time love affair with Paris, both as an intellectual project as well as an artistic one. And we were all brought down to Channel 13. And that was an unusual meeting in many ways, because there were people on that advisory board who really didn't want the Luminous years to take the form it did. They didn't want it to be Paris-centered. But this was a very personal film, for a very personal project for her. I think it came after many, many projects, and in a certain sense summed up a lot of what she had been doing. So there was no way that she was going to give this up.
And so I did a script, and we sent it to the NEH. I understood, what it was that was bothering the people of the committee. I think that possibly that maybe overemphasized the role of Paris, and not maybe enough attention to whatever it was. They loved the next script. They actually gave us $800,000 for production. So we were in business.
It sort of emphasized to me to what extent Perry was not an academic, and I say that in the best sense of the word, because academics have a sense of what a field should be, what the latest research is, and that doesn't necessarily reflect the broader interest of a broader public, and it certainly may not reflect an individual's interest. So Perry had a certain story to tell, and it was deeply personal for her, and it was a story that she felt still had resonance for her audience, and that's the story she wanted to tell.
For her whole life, this was the one that she wanted to make, and I am so, so pleased to have helped her make it. It was difficult. It was a huge subject. We had 2 hours to cover the history of modern art in Paris at the turn of the 20th century. So all of the names that everyone's familiar with, Picasso, Matisse, Gertrude Stein, the music, Copland, the writers, Hemingway, James Joyce, it was huge. And we had some trouble whittling it down, and she has a real, right from here, it's deep what she responds to. It's not superficial at all, the way that she responds to her films. And so she sees it and she feels it, and she even does this thing of, and she's watching it and she's watching it, and it's like conducting, and then that's it.
She's not a choreographer, so one wouldn't necessarily say it's a choreographic rhythm, but there are these different rhythms, and that part of her skill is, and what works on us, I think, as viewers, is the way we sense these multiple rhythms within the different media, and then how they cross and sometimes create interesting cross currents. So I think that's very, very sophisticated, and is also part of her real quality as a filmmaker.
Music is really important for types of films like this, to help send the message to the viewer of what is the message that you're sending. Part of that comes with the music, and it helps to pace the artwork and the archival images. Perry is very, very particular about the music. She just likes to listen to lots and lots and lots of music, and when she hears it, she knows that that's the one.
I have been asked, as a matter of fact, somebody in publicizing the film said something about Paris being a culmination of my work. I don't know. I don't see Paris I don't see any one film being a culmination. I think that it is a realization of something that I wanted to do, a fulfillment, if you like, of something that I have said now many times that I wanted to do for years, and I do love the film.
She's trying to convey something about the art, something about the artists, something about the project, but also something about how she responds to the artworks and the world that created them. And that, I think, is the more subjective quality that sets her work apart, that she's not afraid of being a subjective filmmaker. This is her point of view, because I think her films are kind of intimate. They're not huge productions. I mean, they're very sophisticated productions, and they may cover wide terrain, but nevertheless, there's an intimacy about them in the way they engage the viewer and in the way she's engaged with her subjects.
She's also a pioneer in terms of women working in film and women working in film and television. There weren't so many women who were able to do the kind of work that Perry has been doing for, these many years. So she is definitely a pioneer.
I think Perry's work is definitely, she's making films that will last almost like a book. I mean, these are films that are evergreens. They'll always last because the research that she did and the people that she interviewed, I mean, they're just incredible records, history. And I think that that's something that was really fantastic about how she approached the work.
I think one of the legacies of Perry is that in this period, when the idea that there was finally in this country support for documentaries about the arts, Perry was able to take sometimes several years, if necessary, to make a film. Rather than change the scope of the ambition of the project, Perry stuck it out until she could get all of the things, all the resources, in terms of filming, in terms of finance, to do it the way she thought it was correct.
She's been ahead of her time, and she's been a crusader for the kind of work that is important to her. And public television is lucky to have had Perry Miller Adato.